The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.
It's round 3 of the AUL. We've got a big lineup with Sydney Suns versus Adelaide Dragons. I'm Claire Hussey and I'm here with Ewan Weimer to bring you this exciting game. Sydney have faced Melbourne in a previous round, as have Adelaide Dragons. They've both lost to Melbourne with a very similar score, 13-9 against Sydney and 13-10 against Adelaide. Should be a close matchup, Ewan.
Yeah, very exciting matchup this one. Sydney, 1 win and 1 loss. Adelaide, 2 losses, but both teams having very similar scoreline against Melbourne. So Adelaide, I think, will be confident that they can match with Sydney here. And they've also got some players in red hot form. Joel Pillar-Rogers leading the stats board for assists, and Sally Yu and Lachlan Murphy also right up there in goals. Sydney, very strong defensive team. They'll be looking to shut those matchups down. If they can do that, they'll be well on their way to a win.
Yep, and Adelaide will be missing Michaela Dunmore and Lachlan McDonald this game, and Sydney are missing Rachel Parsons and Rob Andrews, who are the players sitting out on the bench this time. Joshi had a chat with the coaches. Let's have a look at that.
I'm joined by Bree, coach of the Adelaide Dragons. You've got a game coming up shortly against Sydney. They've got a very, very good lineup.
Yeah.
What do you do to stop Sydney?
That is a great question. Look, I think with a roster like they have, they're going to be looking to utilise, they've got some strong girls that move the disc. So Rosie Dawson and Sarah Wentworth are quite handy in the midfield. And then on the throwing side of things, they've got some standout male throwers, Tom Tullett and Mark Evans. So really, I think it'll be about mixing up our defence to try and see what we can throw at them.
Fantastic. And you've enjoyed coaching this Adelaide team in the lead up in the last couple of months. You feel like the team's gelling together pretty well? Yeah,
we had a training camp back in June, which was really positive for the team. We were able to form some strong connections in that camp, which was exciting. So yeah, it's been a great weekend.
Well, all the best for your game against Sydney.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Yui, coach of the Sydney Suns. Hey, you're playing the Adelaide Dragons very shortly.
Yep.
Talk us through your strategy.
Look, the conditions out there are pretty windy and pretty gusty. I've told the team to be on the ball with getting into the scraps of things, that this is going to sail a bit longer than you think it would, and they have a couple of really good scrappy players who will get into the bottom of that, so we need to make sure we kill the disc if it's up in the air right away.
Sure, and they've got some pretty handy players. Sally Yu can run, they've got Shannon, they've got people like Brett Middleton going long, Joel Pillar can do a bit of everything. How are you going to shut these guys down?
So I think the key for us will be getting the disc out of the hands of their main throwers like Joel. We're probably going to come down in a slightly zoney set to make sure that Joel's shots aren't obvious to him and he has to play and recycle the disc through other players, and I think that'll be key for us winning this game.
Thanks, Yui. Good luck for the game.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, it's another chilly day in Melbourne, and the wind is pretty blustery. You can see it flapping around on the uniforms of the players. It's kind of coming right to left across your screen and a little bit diagonally, and it's a little bit changeable as well, so be interesting to see how the players cope with this pretty strong gust. Sydney obviously have been playing well despite one loss, and you know, clearly a well jam-packed team with their roster. What should we hope to see from them to win this game?
Yeah, Sydney, I think definitely the clear favourites. They have a wonderful roster. We just saw for one moment against Melbourne, they lost their composure or maybe lost concentration for a few minutes towards the end of the game, and that was what cost them. If they can keep it all together in this game, they should come out very well against the Dragons. What do you think are the keys for the Dragons? How can they make this a win?
Well, we saw the Dragons' offense in their last game against Melbourne was really quite good. They didn't have any trouble mostly scoring on their offense points, but on defense, if they did get a block, they really didn't put it away. So if and when they get blocks in this game, they need to be a lot more decisive and more composed with the disc, and not get so hot-headed. And it should be all up to play for, I think.
It's all between the shoulders for this one then.
And we get the game off to a start with the familiar sight of Britton Jones's roller pool. Chung getting the disc centrally. Blakely goes for a big one very quickly, but he has overshot with that wind over his shoulders, and Debley couldn't get onto the end of that one. Quite a zinger. Oh, that would be Rosie Dawson, not Debley.
Yeah, I've
Another
got
one
about
of
the same.
Sydney's fast receivers.
It's going to be very interesting. That's the downwind end, so straight away Adelaide with an opportunity to break. Peter Blakely there just airing one out early, testing the wind. We'll see, is this going to be a game of lots of turns or some very clean offense? And it looks like it could be turns.
Yep, almost as you said that word, that disc hit the ground and it's back in the hands of Blakely. Trying to find a way around this Middleton mark. Finds an under from Dawson. There's a call on the throw. Thanks to the hand signals, it looks like it was a stall out.
Very rare in these situations for it to not be contested, so quite likely to go back there. Very hard to tell if someone has said the T of 10 on the very instant before you've released the pass, so yeah, an opportunity for Adelaide here to clamp down for 2 seconds and try and force a turn.
Yeah, the disc will be coming in stalling 8. As Middleton taps it back in. Haberfield finds his dump. Was closely bid on by Sally Yu. She was a fingertip away from getting that one.
Great bid by Sally Yu there, reading the play out of the hand.
And we've gone to the edge of the goal. Neild popped over the top of Britton Jones there and has maybe landed on his hand. He looks like he's in a lot of pain.
I think it might have even been a trailing foot of Neild as he jumped over there, hitting the outstretched hand of Britton Jones as he made that dive, and that's going to sting. We could be here for a little while he kind of assesses whether he can keep on playing.
Yeah, hopefully nothing too serious, but it's not looking great right now for Britton Jones. Britton Jones is one of Adelaide's many players who have a hyphenated surname. They're very, very heavy on the hyphenations. I think there's about five of them. So I think if we all imagine Adelaide Dragons as a hyphenated name from now on, that would be more suitable. And we're back in. Neild's got the disc on the edge of the end zone, searching for an option, finds Chung as a dump. And Chung looking over the top and amazingly pulled down by Neild. I'm not sure if he was the intended receiver.
Some great pressure there by Adelaide on a number of their passes. Murphy, Yu, Britton Jones all inches away from the block there. Not the result that they wanted from that first defensive point, but the pressure was great. That's it. Very encouraging from the Dragons.
Absolutely. Now the Sydney Suns defensive unit getting ready for what they would be hoping for a big block. Tom Tulip with the pull. Just landing on the line. And the stacked leader in assists, Joel Rogers, walking that one into the middle of the field to the brick mark. Three handlers back, three upfield in a horizontal, and Pillar Rogers has stuck it immediately, but it drifted too far deep and over the top of Murphy, who couldn't quite read it over the top of his head.
Very hard one to catch those ones when it's coming directly over your shoulder. And a turn again straight away.
Pillar Rogers ordering everyone about, getting them where he wants them so that he can try and get another assist, and he goes for it with a loopy round dying disc just saved by Murphy. That was quite the grab on a difficult throw.
Yeah, very interesting look there from Adelaide, clearing the space totally for Murphy in the end zone. Henry Thomas there doing a great job shutting Murphy down, shutting Murphy down for 3 or 4 seconds, but it's a long time to play one-on-one defense in the end zone there, and eventually Murphy able to find space in the end zone.
Yeah, interesting to see how Adelaide are quite comfortable with that. You know, letting Joel Pillar Rogers hold the disc until he gets the option that he wants. I think a lot of other teams would have looked sooner for the dump and maybe moved it around and gone around another side of the end zone, but Adelaide quite comfortable to just sit and allow Murphy the time to get free and let Joel do his thing. Rogers with the pull. Chung picking up and getting the disc into play. Dawson squeezes one up the line. Neild centering the disc again to Chung. Blakely. Dawson. Resetting with a pick. Sydney quite happy to keep this disc moving around. They've sort of reformed a stack after having a bit of a mess up there briefly. And Haberfield finds a score in the front of the end zone with Rebecca Carmen. Rebecca Carmen, a favourite from the 2016 Australian Women's Masters team.
But showing showing plenty of speed there, Beck Carmen. Yeah, Sydney, a very different style of offense there to what we just talked about with Adelaide, looking to swing the disc around on after 3 or 4 seconds and finding the opening eventually.
Without the cover.
Yeah, well, without the public, like this. Like, not that it's working, some of the fact that it's not.
Trillett's pull sailing to the far end zone. Roessler laying off to Warren White. And Joel Pillar-Rogers has hucked it again to a contested option. Nice D there from Deborah Lee, but I'm questioning whether it wasn't open. I think maybe it was open, but he could have stuck it a bit further or maybe a bit earlier to give Roessler a chance at that one. She had to cut back under to try and get a bid on that, and it was kind of left all on the plate for Lee to get that block. Sydney working to get it away from their defensive end zone. Cupcake, Trillett goes for the big huck, full field, and Thomas easily jumps it in. That was a really well-timed huck from Trillett.
And that is the difference between the two hucks there. You can see very similar looks in terms of timing. Thomas there being able to run onto it, catch it on his chest, uncontested. That's a goal. Unfortunately, Pillar-Rogers' huck was a little bit short, and the contest led to the turn.
Yeah, as soon as Trillett had that disc in his hands, he had vision on his receiver, and he didn't hesitate. He just got that out and executed it exactly how he wanted it to go.
That is an extremely tough throw though, upwind. That's 50 metres. Trillett renowned as having an incredibly strong backhand. There's not many throwers, even at this level, who can make that throw. That is a very valuable break for Sydney.
Yeah, and you can see how he gets that throw out. He puts so much power in. He uses his whole torso to whip that disc out, and that's the way to bite through the wind. You've got to get as much spin on the disc as you can to beat the power of the wind. In Adelaide, back on offense, Sally Yu with the disc, looking for an up the line. Britton Jones back in action, and he sticks a big one, which has faded away, and I think there was a switch onto Murphy there.
Not sure, but again, Murphy putting his body on the line. You're right, it looks like Blakely there peeling off the back of the stack to add some pressure there to that one. And just getting a hand on it, doing enough to knock it away from Murphy. Great work there from Blakely.
Yeah, and these little differences in executing your offensive throws can really turn a game one way or the other. I think if that throw had been made to the opposite corner, the receiver would have been able to run that down, but Sydney saw the chance to switch, and the disc faded as well, which ended in turn.
Another chance now for Adelaide to go upwind, and they get the disc moving quickly this time, which is a great idea. Murphy now hanging on to it, looking for someone. Airs it out. And Middleton with a great grab this time.
Davis laid it off to Pillar-Rogers, and an interesting choice to throw it up the line, allowing Rosie Dawson to get a nice layout block on Michelle Phillips. And the throw to Michelle Phillips. And Sydney back on the attack. Another big one laid out with heaps of space for Rosie Dawson to get the double happiness and get a goal on the board.
Aberfield there doing a great job moving his mark over to the forehand side with a big fake before the big backhand around to the other side of the field, and that's the difference in putting the huck to advantage of your offensive player. No pressure on the catch there, and a goal for Rosie Dawson.
Have a look at her block there. She could just see that coming up the line and sped up to overtake and bid on that disc. I mean, they're both fast players, but she's just read that disc better, read the play better, and the thrower probably shouldn't have stuck that, but she did the job.
Michelle Phillips' nickname is Snail. It's a bit like calling a redhead Bluey. It's not because she's slow at all, so Rosie Dawson there with a huge closing speed to get that block.
Yeah, impressive stuff. Sydney coming down with their D. Thomas fast to get the mark on onto Pillar Rogers. Rossler laying it off again. Rossler has it back after a pick was called just before she threw it, which obviously affected her throw. And she got another chance at it, but maybe the store count was high. She rushed that and it went straight to Sydney. Lee tries to loop a big one round to chill it, but the wind got the better of that and it curled over back into Pillar Rogers' hands, who stuck it deep. And this time it's paid off for him. I was thinking that it was going to be dropping short again, but Bub was able to run straight onto that one.
Yeah, sometimes the wind works in your favour, and in this case you can see both players there. Not quite sure where that one was going to land, looking to get the read on the disc. And Bub in the end able to read the disc with the wind carrying it a bit further through to her. Adelaide in their last game, very clean offense in the first half. I remember they had a very high completion percentage. I feel like we're not seeing the same composure in this game as we saw against the Flames.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the wind is affecting the team a bit more than it wasn't really present in their previous game. Maybe it's leaving them feeling a bit uncomfortable.
I think there might also be a level of trust that you have to have there in your offense and each other, that you are going to be able to put together 10, 15 passes that you need in the wind to score a point, as we see a turn there and an opportunity for the Dragons to show some composure and go upwind.
We see Sean Davis around the disc. He is looking keen to get that disc and do something useful with it, and off he goes.
Davis there isolated for a little bit. It's probably 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds before he had an open look, and again, not a lot happening upfield or around the dump set for Davis to keep the disc moving so that Adelaide could change the angles and get that open look.
He did opt for a very difficult option there as well, passing to a player running away from you at a tight angle. Dawson on the sideline, marked by Michelle Phillips. And a cold drop from Blakely. The wind getting to everyone a little bit. I think that it's, you know, coming fast at you and you've got to watch it all the way into the hands and think about the catch before you think about the throw. Alex Pillar-Rogers on offense here for the Dragons. Lays one off to Davis. Keeps it moving. Phillips. Pillar-Rogers. There's a lot of busyness around the disc. Keeping it alive, and they find Phillips, who looks upfield for the goal, but again, difficult throw in that wind. It's come out a little bit on edge and turned over before it had a chance to reach Sally Yu's hands. Chung moving the disc, nice gainer there to Blakely, or Neild.
Neild there opting not to throw the big downfield huck, just take the safe pass. But it turns out maybe he should have thrown it. The Dragons have got the turn in midfield.
It was just another slight misfire, throw behind the player. And we've got a nice up the line there from Alex Pillar-Rogers to Michelle Phillips, who whips a big one and is defeated by the wind again. That was probably a throw that she would normally be quite comfortable completing, a crossfield loopy backhand, but that wind is not playing along with that sort of throw today. And a turnover off the first throw, back in possession for Sydney.
You can see in the background of that previous shot, the wind is really picked up now. Both teams having a lot of trouble hitting passes more than 15 metres.
Yeah, and again there, I think that was a throw that Alex Pillar-Rogers would normally expect to complete, that inside up the channel, but with this wind, it's got to be a lot more precise. Sydney Suns back on the attack. And a fumble drop from Carmen. Michelle Phillips getting the disc back into play. And a nice collection from Sean Davis on a wayward throw, but immediately turns over. And Sydney have gone for another big one, which after that series of turnovers, it's at least turned over for them in a better position, which is going to mean Adelaide have to work it a long way up. So it might be turning into one of those games of huck and D.
Definitely, yeah. Much safer for Sydney to have it down this end of the field at the moment. A couple of times they have tried to work it down and turned it in midfield. So perhaps best just to get it down there, try and force a turn and get a score.
Davis getting it off and collected. Pillar-Rogers, Murphy. I'm liking this patience a bit more now from Adelaide. But just that throw a bit too high for Davis and he can't keep control of it. Neild finds Blakely. And a very open Chung in the middle of the field. Dawson to Neild. Neild finding Chung again for the goal on her knees. That was a good passage of play from Sydney and Chung to finish that point after a heavily messy point.
Yeah, turning into a very scrappy game now because of the wind. Very important now for both teams to keep their confidence up and trust their skills and focus. There has to be so much more focus on every little pass and catch in the wind. That's what will get rid of those mistakes, and we've seen both teams here cough the disc up quite cheaply at different points. Adelaide now having a timeout to discuss it, talk about it.
Yeah, concentration and focus is such a key aspect of the game, and that's the main going to make the main difference here. If it's not like any of the players can't complete throws in this wind, they definitely can. They just need to think about doing that and prioritize it instead of expecting to complete throws and expecting to have the normal flow that you would without the wind. So hopefully this timeout will help Adelaide to reset their mind and remember that they definitely can get through these offense points with no issues. It's just a matter of deciding.
The wind is a challenge, but it also presents an opportunity for Adelaide. They've got a lot of turns in the last couple of points. That's what they're going to need to win this game. They're down by a few, so if they can start punching in those offensive points and defensive offense, they'll be right back in this.
We haven't seen any zone defense yet in this game. I wonder if something Sydney have up their sleeve.
Yeah, so far match defense has been doing the job for both teams. People able to put pressure on the throws enough so that they can generate turns.
And Pillar Rogers whipping another backhand up the line, and it's beautifully brought down by Bub.
Great read there by Bub as we saw another look at that throw from Pillar Rogers, giving the nod, a subtle nod, this is coming, and then a little shimmy to move his mark, a big backhand, and Bub again reading that disc to perfection in very difficult conditions.
Yeah, she read it well, and she just made a slight adjustment at the end of her run to make sure that her defender couldn't get a bit on that disc. She just kind of moved herself slightly to the right and protected the direction of the disc. It was really, really well executed.
Of course, ultimate a non-contact sport. If you can get your body in the way that and box out your defender, that's a very good way of making sure you've got a clear path to the disc.
Now look at Adelaide's defence. This really would be a good opportunity. It's a good time for them to clamp down and maybe play a bit more as a defensive unit. We haven't really seen that much. I don't think we've seen that much teamwork in the defensive unit so far from Adelaide. We saw some, clever communication switching with Sydney earlier, but I feel like Adelaide may be a bit lost in the team defence stakes. It's not up to individuals to get blocks. You need to be sticking to a team plan. As the disc goes up and sneaks over the top of Pillar Rogers, and a quick one throw goal for Sydney from Haberfield.
I think Pillar Rogers will be a little bit disappointed with that one. Just sneaking over the top of his outstretched hand. I think he probably thought he had that one for most of the way. But to get a sense of how tough the conditions are out there, Pillar Rogers, one of the strongest throwers in Australian Ultimate, and his pull only making it to halfway. It's going to be very tough for both teams to go upwind.
Well, let's see how Evans copes with the wind on this pull as it's reaching the strongest part of its force in this game. That one going out pretty quickly as well. It's going to be bricked.
The last couple of times Pillar Rogers has looked very deep very early on, so we'll see if that's the look here from the offensive point again. And Murphy's gone deep straight away.
He opted for the bub undercut. Didn't like the look of the deep. Bub's gone for it, but it was not a deep enough throw and it was pulled down by Thomas. Chulett now lunging for a quick little backhand, and we've got a flick find through to Thomas, who sneaks one through to Alexander for the goal. A bit of a risky option again, I'd say, but it's done the job.
Two great throws there to get the upwind point. Thomas nonchalant there with the flick forehand into the end zone, but there is so much spin that you have to put on that throw in order to get it to sit up in the wind and not be taken away and end up halfway back down the field.
And that brings us to halftime. They have taken the halftime lead 7-3.
As we start to take a look at some of the stats here, the big one for me is the Adelaide completion rate there, 78%. Last game against the Flames at halftime, 96%, I think. That's a very telling change. That's going to need to be different in the second half if they've got any chance in this game. Hussey, what do you think?
Yep, they've got to up that completion rate. They've got to reduce the throwaways. I mean, easy to say from here, but you can also see that Sydney have racked up many more blocks, 5 more blocks than Adelaide. I think that's sort of showing their commitment to staying a bit closer on defense. We've seen quite a few undershots coming out for Sydney. They're allowed a lot more space on the field, whereas Sydney is shutting down the Adelaide options a little bit more, probably forcing those throwaways, making Adelaide make harder choices.
Sydney applying lots of pressure around the disc. Often we've seen a high stall count huck go up by Adelaide, and in these conditions those are very tough throws to pull off. And if Sydney can maintain that pressure, they will take out this game. I think also the quality of the upfield throws by Sydney has been fantastic. Going upwind, we've seen both Tullett and Evans put up some really delightful looking that 40 or 50 metres that just haven't been able to be matched by the Adelaide Dragons.
Yeah, and not forcing it when it's not on, not looking for it when they're not sure that they're going to be able to execute those throws. Good decision making. Second half underway. Murphy laying it off to Enting Hawk. Warren White looking to move it off the line. There's a bit of a poach in the lane. Might have a gender mismatch on defence from Sydney. Enting Hawk saves a low throw and gets moving again. Pillar Rogers, will he resist the end zone? Yes, he does. Swings it. Oh, and that was a really nice decision and good offense from Adelaide. It just, the disc popped up at the last second there, and the goal was denied.
Phillips would love to have that one back. I think she'll feel like she could have caught that one, unfortunately, and a very good offensive set by the Dragons, but just not able to get the goal.
Yep, and Sydney turning around and doing exactly what we were just talking about, making very well-weighted, well-executed throws, good decisions going into that wind.
Both Thomas and Evans making really light work of that strong wind. Two great throws to get another break there for Sydney.
Not wanting to nitpick, I did see a bit of a travel on that replay of the Evans Huck. I'm not a big fan of travels that get overlooked. I feel like if you are such an incredible thrower and you're not executing those throws without travelling, then you should maybe do a little bit more work on that. A bit more work on your travel control.
I'm sure Mark Evans spends quite a lot of time on his long backhands, so he'll have plenty of time to practice that.
Yeah. The New Zealander Haberfield there, ready to whip a downwind pull. Landing hard just in front of Alex Pillar-Rogers, who lets that one roll off, and for the Axis handler Joel Pillar-Rogers to stroll and retrieve that disc.
Very strong off break there from Haberfield, landing it in the middle of the field but rolling it out all the way to the right.
Difficult spot here with the wind coming at you in the corner of the field, but Pillar-Rogers has dug one out to Davis, lays it off to Middleton, and a nice layup in front of Davis again. He spots Sally Yu going deep, and Sally has read that very well and dragged her defender over into the open side, letting herself have space to run that down and make a great catch.
A great job there by Yu to box out Dawson. Dawson on her shoulder all the way, but Sally Yu maintaining her position in front and never letting Dawson have a run and jump at the disc.
Yeah, there was a bit of a risk in that throw, but pleased to see it paying off for the Adelaide Dragons.
That's what they're going to need to get back into this game. A little bit of luck, take some chances. But having said that, that was a much cleaner offensive point. Generating space for the handler cutters, for the throwers to be able to throw upwind too. It gave them so much more space and opportunity in the midfield, so I hope they can keep that up.
Yeah, they were on the front foot there during that offensive run, for sure. Alex Britton-Jones hand must be okay after that injury earlier, but not really working out for his pull, which went out very early. But yeah, everyone's struggling to make an effective pull in this wind at the moment.
I'm not sure if the cameraman had said something rude to Britton Jones at some stage, but it looked like he aimed straight for him there. But this now a big advantage for Sydney to have the disc 15 metres outside the Adelaide end zone.
Triller off the line to Evans. Casual high release backhand to Wentworth. Evans and Wentworth just working it here while their stacks stay patiently, still waiting for a chance to strike. Tulip and Thomas, and they've worked it up. Tulip making a great little stutter head fake. You can see there halfway through his run he ducks back to try and throw his defender off and carries on his up the line cut.
Great cut there by Tulip, using his body to great effect to sell the defender on exactly what he wanted, and gave the thrower plenty of space to throw into, made it very easy to go upwind for the offensive hold.
Yeah, and Sydney really working through their handler set there. They're using their whole team to get these goals, but they're coming often from behind the disc rather than trying to force an easy option to an upfield cutter. All of those throws there, they worked it through the players behind the disc and eventually went up the line for that goal.
And if we look at the difference between the last two pulls, really the last offensive pull from Adelaide, it's unforgivable when you're pulling downwind to give your opposition the disc 10 or 15 metres outside the end zone, and Sydney made them pay.
Oh, and Pillar Rogers being denied by the wind there, letting that outside edge up a touch, which killed that disc quickly. Blakely to Haberfield to Neild, who makes a diving tumble roll for a goal. Seemed to be an exclusively male offensive run there for Sydney. Not sure. I think the women were doing a good job of making space very diligently for the three men on the team.
And in these windy conditions, it is very important for your offence to be able to make space to give the throwers plenty of room to throw into. The tight windows are going to be so much harder to throw into at the moment, so anything the upfield cutters can do to give their thrower more of a window to throw into is a big advantage.
These blusters in wind can either, force the disc down very quickly and suddenly, or it can pop it up and give defenders another chance to get onto it. So you're right, leaving a bigger window is the best one can do. Adelaide going for a side stack. And Murphy coming out with his cut, but not hit. It's got a big put to nobody. I'm not sure who Britton Jones was hoping was going, but they didn't go.
Looked like Sean Davies might have just turned his cut around there as Britton Jones let that one fly. Nothing worse as a cutter, cutting deep, striking back under and seeing the disc fly over your head.
Nothing worse as a thrower than winding up your throw as you see your cutter streaking deep for them to turn around at that exact moment and come back under. Some straight up marks from Adelaide. I'm not really sure. That one was whipped out.
Looked like an interesting zone there. Not as much pressure around the disc, but managed to get a look that forced an interesting throw from Sydney, and now they've got the disc back.
Yeah, maybe Adelaide are cracking the secret to forcing some bad throws from Sydney. Alex Rogers faking the scuba, but opting for the open side flick. And Bub just letting one out there for a turnover. Sydney, can they respond immediately as they have done so many times this game? They cannot. They've gone for a short layoff that dropped. And Adelaide respond and have found a goal through Michelle Phillips.
Yes, Dawson a bit casual there with that handoff to Thomas. Casual with that handoff to Thomas, and then Phillips streaking deep as soon as she saw the turn. 2-on-1 for Adelaide was always good odds.
Yeah, Alex Pillar-Rogers picking up and sticking that one as soon as she saw the snail making her slide to the zone.
And thanks again to Dent Revolution, the sponsors of the Adelaide Dragons, for all your dent removal needs in Adelaide.
Both teams are still to face Canberra in later rounds in the league. Canberra lost to Brisbane in the last round, so it was a big loss of 13-6. So I imagine both these teams would have a good stab at them.
Yeah, one thing we have seen so far from all the teams is that anyone can beat anyone, so there's going to be plenty of excitement in the later rounds, I'm sure.
With the shiny AUL Cup to play for, that was a beautiful up the middle of the field throw, and got a jack to the end zone for Haberfield, who couldn't quite get up to reach that.
Yeah, the throw wasn't quite there, but I do love the cut from Haberfield there, coming from all the way in the handler space, seeing that a lot of the cutters were short and there was room deep. Plenty of space to throw into that time, but unfortunately Sydney just not able to execute.
Warren White just getting tangled up with Eunice Chung, and then Pillar-Rogers just maybe got foot blocked. Sydney back on the attack, and a quick throw for another Carmen goal.
Yeah, it looked to me like Blakely got a piece of that one, and then running to pick up the disc, and a quick score for Sydney. Excellent defense around the disc there from Sydney in that point. Once the turn had happened, a lot of pressure, making it very hard for Adelaide to throw the 5 to 10 metre disc recycling throws you need to get your offense moving. Adelaide finding it hard, and eventually a bit of brilliance by Blakely to get the foot block on Pilla Rogers.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be feeling pretty chuffed with that. And Sydney looking very comfortable with themselves and charging on as they will.
For one thing so far, one positive so far this game, look, it's been gritty and very tough conditions for the players, but the wind has not abated at all. They've had plenty of chances to get used to it, so we'll see. Oh, look there, that's exactly what you need to do.
But then another rushed effort at a throw that was possibly a bit out of range for Bub. And Sydney turn on their offense again. Tulip, Lee. Oh, and somehow getting through to Wentworth with a charging defensive bid. And then a drop.
Yeah, cold drop unfortunately there from Thomas. Perhaps just the wind bobbling that one a bit as it came into the hands, and unfortunately that can happen in these kinds of conditions.
Adelaide have got a chance to back up now. Oh, and a looping over the top. Interesting decision there. He had that disc for a while, stared at a very static upfield and decided that a knifing flick was going to be the optimal choice. Might have gone for a dump there instead.
I think there needs to be a switch in your head that when the wind is this strong, you have to change the range of throws that you have, and unless you're an exceptional thrower, you really have to rein it in so you can make sure that 95% of your throws are completions.
And even if you are an exceptional thrower, in this downwind situation, it's going to be a very difficult catch with a pinging blade coming at you. Alexander lays off, and we've got a central huck that sneaks through to Deborah Lee. There's Thomas there being brave as you like, just deciding, yep, I'm taking that.
And a bit of a blown coverage there, I think, from Adelaide. Lee in plenty of space, and it's not just about having a great thrower, but it's about knowing when you can deploy them, and Lee there in so much space. Thomas could have the confidence to let one go, and even if there was a bit of error, Lee was going to be there to get it.
"24-year-old Haberfield has a personal training business going on, so he's not going to be fatiguing at any time in this game, I don't think. His pull stopped from rolling away by Pilla Rogers. And finds Yu coming under, closely marked, so it was a great grab. Oh, and just misfiring there from Britton Jones. Tries to desperately get it back as Sydney march on. Oh, and Bit of a lazy toss there, but Haberfield gives it his best shot to clean up, but can't get his hand under it. Someone's been injured and just getting a switch.
Davis, it looks like, who's coming on there.
Adelaide in that tough corner. Joel Pillar-Rogers sends one wide across the field into a lot of players, and it doesn't touch anyone. Sydney respond immediately. A quick short throw to the very ever-speeding Blakely.
Bit of a microcosm of this whole game there, sequence of play. Very tough conditions. Yeah, very tough conditions and potentially not the best throw there. And Sydney able to capitalise very quickly.
Yeah, and that's the game for Sydney. They've really shown their strength in the wind here today. They've made better decisions. They've played tighter, more pressured defence, and they've left Adelaide wondering how they could have done better.
Yeah, absolutely a dominant display there by Sydney. Undoubtedly very tough conditions for both teams, and I think both teams will be happy to get under the shelter and put a jacket on, but Sydney there doing everything they needed to come away with the win.
Thanks for joining us, Claire Hussey and Ewan Weimer. We hope you've enjoyed the game. Tune in for the next game, Canberra Freeze versus the Melbourne Flames. See you then.
The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.